which is what we all want to do.
Sure.
Her podcast was featured among one of India's top 10 female podcasts as well. So that's a little bit about our panelists. I am Tara. I am the founder of Bound. I am a bookworm. I'm an editor. I've been an editor for the last 10 years. So I've worked at companies like Penguin and Writer Side. And I started Bound 3 years ago as a skill building platform for creatives. So in the last 3 years, we've also coached over 300 writers, conducted over 120 classes, 8 retreats, and we started 2 podcasts, both books based, but we're also entering into podcast production now. That's why we started this podcast community. We're very into community building. We have a great community of book lovers, where we exchange tips, where we help each other get our stories out into the world. We love storytelling, and we hope to do the same with Pod Squad. So that's a little bit about us. I hope to get to know all of you a little bit better as well. There are some familiar names that are attending today. So thank you for that. But please do also write a bit about yourself in the chat box. We would all, I'm sure, love to know who's attending. And we'd also be putting this up on our YouTube page. All right. Thank you so much, Varun and Savita, for being here today. So I want to ask.
I'm also putting it out saying that me and Savita do not plan to both be dressed in the
Yeah,
identical
color
same color.
coordinate.
It was not planned. It is my daughter's favorite color, so I try to wear it as often as possible.
It's
So
my
she's very
favorite.
excited when I do this.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out, and thank you for having me here. Strangely, rose is like our brand color, so
Right.
but I do wear a lot of pink, I have to say. So
Pink is one of my favorite colors as well, and it's so interesting. Before this panel, I was like, oh, like we are going to be interviewing the interviewers, so which is kind of like a funny paradox. But I want to start off with just a very simple question. How did you first get interested in podcasts? Why podcasting, and why this interview format?
Savita, do you want to go first? I can go in after.
yeah, you can go. Or maybe you'll be a hard act to follow. Let me go first. Okay, I'm the newbie here, and when I wanted to do a podcast for a long time. I think the most important reason is because I listen to podcasts, and it's a favorite medium of mine. I love listening to audio. And this was 2019. Actually, I started my business at the end of 2017 after I quit my corporate career, and I put this on my vision board. But it was one of those things that you kept thinking you'll do it, you'll do it, you'll do it. But I never got to it until 2021. And this year in March, I said, okay, I really have to get to this. So I put out a podcast and I said, let me do what I'm already doing, which is one was I had access to a lot of entrepreneurs. So I said, their voices need to be heard, one. And this can be a great medium to have this piece of content that people can listen to, apply in their businesses. So I wanted to break down how people build their business. And I didn't intend it to be just a women guest only kind of podcast. I said, okay, maybe female entrepreneurs can listen to it. It just so happened that every guest I reached out to happened to be female, but we are looking at adding. In fact, Varun has been on my list for a while to be added as a guest. So yeah, I'm very new to podcasting, and the intention was just to have these interviews, create content that people can learn from, take away, and apply in their own businesses, in their own lives, to their own mindset. And that was the intention with which I started it.
Amazing. Yeah. And interesting to know that, you'll be expanding your guests, because I also wanted to ask about experimentation. Yeah.
I'm game whenever you call. Putting that out there. So podcasting kind of happened to me by chance, to be very honest. I've been a video guy my entire career. It started off on MTV channel. We did the entire bunch. Still look after production at the agency. So podcasting kind of happened where I was a guest on a few podcasts, and this got the opportunity to say, do you want to try hosting a podcast with the guys at IBM? And realized I really enjoyed it. I also did not think anybody would want to listen to my voice, because I've always thought I sound innately guilty whenever a mic comes near me. My mother still catches it most times, and so do a few friends. But I just thought, let me just go and have conversations, and that's where I started it off. And the idea was simply to say that when I wanted to kind of work in the media space when I was much younger, there was nothing out there for me to learn from. Like I had no frame of reference. I remember coming to Bombay years ago and didn't even know where to go to find an institute because I came from a background which had zero connection to this space. And I said, okay, how can I kind of change that? How can I almost be that student who's sitting and asking questions about what's happening right now? So anybody listening in can kind of say, okay, these are the opportunities I have. This is what is happening. This is what maybe I could kind of do. So I go in I went in like a learner. I still kind of do that, try to kind of learn from all my guests. And that's literally how we started off. And now you kind of love, yeah, well, like I said, 2 podcasts now, because the more you understand the craft, the more you enjoy it. Like literally my desk has like, I was going to think of plugging this into the one, but I thought it'd be too corny to do it. But it's just been that discovering audio has been such a amazing thing for me to do, because it's an intimate experience, right? When you speak to someone, especially conversations on a podcast are so lovely because you can actually it doesn't feel like an interview, because there is no, like, even though you do a webcam nowadays and do a video version, people don't necessarily worry about it being short and everything else, which is what I feel that video interviews kind of get through. Less pressure on the hosts as well. So in a nutshell, I kind of got into it because I want to have fun conversations, and I keep doing that, and that's what's got me here. I normally ramble on into segues and every other place, which is what I've done right now, and totally digressed from what you asked me. But I don't know if that answered your question or not.
No, it definitely does. And, like, even I started off just wanting to interview the writers that, I love. And it honestly was a dream come true to get 1 hour with these writers and ask them everything that I had in my mind, like that was the main motivation. But a lot of people sort of also want to know, and they wonder, when you're starting out your podcast, and maybe how do you get your first guest, because at that time obviously you don't have that the track record. You may not have your listeners, right? It obviously is very easy after you've built a certain brand name, or you have a certain number of episodes or downloads and all of those things. But for people who want to start from scratch, maybe they want to have interesting conversations about a particular topic. It could be anything. How do they reach out? How should they be thinking about the kinds of guests they're calling, and how do you think they should reach out to those people?
So I had a bit of an advantage, to be honest, because I started off with a network, and so they kind of like gave me infrastructure, at least push it out. So I was a guest on a few of their shows at IVM, etc. But I really stuck to people I knew. First 15, 20 guests of people I could connect with. So I put less pressure on myself. I say this to most, yeah. So I have this thing, right? Every Monday evening, I go as a guest on someone's podcast. I've made that my staple, and I try to find people who are like, I've done literally like first episode for someone, fifth episode for someone, and I really enjoy that because I'm seeing how people are kind of coming into the space. And most times, I point to them is that find someone who your audience will relate to, not necessarily someone who's famous. So if you're in college, find someone who's in your college as a guest. An easiest conversation to have. People in the college will know both of you, so they might just listen to the podcast. Not everybody has to get the biggest names out there, and I would always say start with that. And easier to approach as well. But otherwise, just DM 100 people, and maybe 3 will respond and they'll come on. I literally got people like that as well. I DM people randomly. Like I DM'd Chris Hemsworth's functional trainer, who I follow on Instagram, because he liked a post I had tagged him on. I wrote to him saying, "Will you be a guest on my podcast?" I recorded with him a week later, and he's notoriously very tough to catch. So you never know what happens. Like you can just DM someone, and something turns around.
Yeah, no, I mean, I DM'd you, and I am a big fan of like cold calling and cold emailing. So Savita, you started your podcast in the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So that's such an interesting thing, because even when I started my podcast, it was sort of, we had a recording studio, we had all of those equipments going on. You meet guests face to face. So how is it for you, sort of building that rapport with your guests online, and beginning this online conversation?
Yeah. So because I planned to do this podcast for a long time, I had this microphone Yeti, of course, for a while, right? Yeah, I had to. And but I had struggled with, what am I going to do about the intro, all of those pieces. and someone else had started a podcast. So I got him to actually help me with the podcast. And that was the first thing though. But I didn't overthink it too much because I was like, now I have to start like, okay, whatever. And I was like, okay, maybe my family and my friends will just be nice to me and listen to it. So let's see what happens. That's how I started. But I did what Varun said is right. I reached out to my own network. I reached out to people that I knew, I worked with, or I had interacted with. And then I said, I'm starting this podcast, or would you like to come on it? But I also knew that I wanted to get people, who either have a business or have something to offer to the community of entrepreneurs or anyone who has a side hustle, so they can learn something from it. So that's how I started. But I also, the first episode, I got somebody, the first 4 episodes, I got someone to help me with the editing. Then I figured out equipment myself. I still use Zoom. And I think the first thing that I remember reading was in the pandemic last year, in the US, the first thing that sold out was microphones, right? Because everyone started a podcast in the pandemic. And I think a lot of people were in this space, so it was easy to get information. And I'm the biggest student of Google University, YouTube University. So now I can edit my own podcast. I can do everything myself. It may not be the best, but I'm learning as I go. And I would say, don't like overthink it like I did for 2 years. Just start and then progress over perfection. Don't expect it to be perfect from day one. And often, if you start with your own network, you have that leeway to make those mistakes. And even with people I don't know, I made mistakes. And having said that, I also follow the rule of, anyway, it's already a no, so just ask. If they don't respond, it's fine. So ask shamelessly. If they don't respond or don't get back, or they say no, it's okay. But recently I had I reached out to Anupama Chopra. I just reached out and I said, hey,
Yeah, I listened to that. Yeah.
one of the things she said is, Savita, follow up. Her advice was to follow up. And I was like, there are some guests who have said, can you get back in 2-3 months? And in my mind, I've been like, maybe, they won't respond now. So I'm like, yeah, I need to chase some of those people. So yeah, ask shamelessly. It's anyway, if you don't worry about, be unfazed by rejection. It's a part and parcel of this. And also don't overthink all the pieces and the best sound quality. Yes, it shouldn't be bad, but improve it as you go.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And also in terms of like the sound quality and everything, after the pandemic hit, we started recording just with, regular headphones and the laptop. And it really did not affect our listeners or anything like that at all. So it's better to obviously focus on the content than the technical aspects, as long as you have a baseline technical aspect. And we had so many bloopers, which I really, really want to share as well, because podcasting, I feel, is just all about bloopers. But, we have a range of guests on our podcast. We have people from scholars like Arshia Sattar, and then we have people, who are writing romance, we have people who are writing business books, people who, are very deep into research and history. So we cover a whole range of topics, and then the guests also are very, very different, which makes it all the more interesting. And obviously they're connected with this theme, which is their creative process. But it's very interesting for us, and even Michelle can add, because every guest is so very different. But still, the podcast has to maintain that consistency because the listener's coming back for the host. So I want to know from both of you, how do you sort of navigate, how different each guest is, and given that every guest is different, how do you also maintain that consistency in your show? How much of yourself are you giving in the show?
I'm going to let Savita go first on this one. I think I'm going to do this musical chairs business where I will say that we will not go in the same order every time.
You got to answer. It's the men you're outnumbered here. No, I'll go first. So every guest is different. I approach every guest and every conversation from two angles. One is, I look at their body of work and I'm like, what can I take away from this conversation? What is a teachable moment? Or it could be they've had this really diverse, interesting experience and I just want to know more. So I approach every conversation as a casual conversation, but I, plan out my questions so I can actually, I have tentative questions, but I always tell my guests that during the conversation, depends on what your answer is, I may want to go a little bit deeper. Nothing that'll put you on the spot, but I'll go a little bit deeper. And I think that works because I also do my research, of course, to know what each guest can bring to the table. And I try to center my conversations well in advance around a certain topic. For example, if somebody's, I have something called as Now, right? I didn't do this when the podcast started, but now 4 months in, we do a segment called From the Ground Up, which is literally break down how they build their business. Okay. How did you figure out what's your why? How did you find product market fit? How did you find your first 1,000 clients or 100 clients or 10 clients? So I do that. Now, there are other guests who may be creatives, not necessarily have built a business from the ground up. Let's say, like we did that conversation with Miss Malini, but I asked her about her experiences or what was fun about her interviews and stuff like that. I always know that I'm new to interviewing, right? So I never treat the conversation like trying to get a sound bite or, none of that. I even tell people, look, I had Shaylee Chopra, so I was so scared. Like I literally had like a nervous breakdown before I started the interview. And the first thing she tells me in that interview is, I asked her, how did you start She the People TV? And she said, oh, I finished interviewing Warren Buffett and I walked out and I started this company. And I'm like, I'm sitting in front of this person. So I always tell my guests saying, I'm not the best interviewer you can find. So, and they are the most like, they'll tell me, oh, that's a great question. They'll give me feedback sometimes as we are going through the interview. To answer your question on consistency, that's the only thing I care about. I stay consistent with ensuring that I release those episodes on the day that I said it, I would. Because the RSS feed picks up. That's something that I understood now. I didn't know it before, but I knew that if I did something, it has to be sustainable. I have to be able to plan this well in advance so I can stay consistent to my schedule. And even if I don't have like I'll do a solo. I did solos in between when I didn't have a guest episode ready. So I do all of this. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and I like, the part about when you said you get intimidated, because I
always
relate to that a lot, like some authors that we call, like especially I think Michelle and I were really, before we interviewed Arshia Sattar, who's just a big Ramayana scholar, we were like really intimidated because we had to read all of her books, and she's done so much, so the amount of research, and then it turned out that she was like literally our favorite guest, and we became good friends with her. But it really does happen. And yeah, the consistency part, definitely.
And I'm sure Varun has a different experience because he's like been doing these interviews, but I'm still 1 hour before that interview. I am still, I'm like still.
So I go in scared many times. So here's the thing. I am perennially underprepared, right? I'm very bad when I'm prepared. So the only time I prepared the night before, I think it was I got Ronnie Screwvala on very early in my journey, but 2022, something like that. So I was still kind of getting the ropes of it. So I over prepared. I ran through all the stuff. I had 25, 30 questions. I had a list of things. And and when Ronnie responds, he responds with a full stop. So most times what I try to look for is I look for the next question in what the guest says, and I find a hook and I take it from there. He's so good with the way he responds that it's a full stop. So I had no hooks. So I kept going back to my questions, and some of the questions he didn't necessarily want to talk about as much. So suddenly I was like, so that is the one time I came out saying I could have done so much more. Thankfully, I was doing a live series and where I got him back again and finally had to do a conversation. But I realized that I go in with a broad set of pointers I want to focus on. So whenever a guest asks me, can you send me questions? I'll never give you questions. I'll give you, these are the broad points I'll cover. But I've also realized that every guest, especially because a lot of the corporate people I've realized are so scared to do a conversation versus an interview. So for some of them, I actually like the super senior people who I actually do a pre-chat with where I speak to them, get them comfortable about it. Some of them I even say, let's put off the cameras, let's just do audio, and they're very comfortable once you do that. So I try to do those basis the personality, but one trick I learned, and this is more recently, because what I try to do is I do listen to as many podcasts to study technique, is that start off with the widest canvas question you can give them. So like, okay, what do you think is going to happen in this space, right? They can go on for a couple of minutes. It also warms them up enough, or ask them about how they started off, their childhoods. And how childhood I learned from Amit Verma, right? Amit Verma spends the first half an hour talking about childhood. Like I've always asked him, Amit, how do you do these 3-hour long podcasts? And I went on his podcast. I know how he does it. It is like that's another level of preparation. When we recorded, because we did a 3-hour episode, and at some point I'm like, okay, like this is like, because he researches,
Was
like
it all
he's
in
got.
one go? I've always wanted to know this. Does it all happen
So
in one go?
so what he does is he gives you a break a little over an hour odd later, but an hour 15 odd, take a break. And we record in the night, so we started about 9 p.m. I think we wrapped up closer to midnight. But he's got research, like he's got quotes, he's got stuff which you've said. He connects that to research pieces he can kind of talk about. Even that I can see him refer to those many times, and oftentimes it's in his head as well. And I'm like, that's another category. Like I don't think I'll ever get to that scale. So I prefer to play the ignorant person as a podcaster. I'm just the ignorant person gone in and saying, okay, I don't know about this. What more can you tell me? And I think that's really helped, especially on Advertising is Dead. And over time, you pick up a few things. So I keep my start and end the same every episode. I start off with a broad question. I end off with questions. I directly ask them about what they're interested in, what they recommend, etc. So I know my start and end are sorted. And in between, I just play off what my guest is saying. But I try to prep them a little bit. Some of the guests who I sense might be little, uncomfortable on, because they're also used to regular interviews versus a conversation format. And I think that really helps. But once in a while, you catch that small spark when you mention one topic. And then okay, I can catch on to that. Like this person enjoys talking about this, and then that kind of opens it all up. So I tend to freewheel a lot more than prepare. My preparation is atrocious. You literally find like a sheet of paper like this lying around somewhere with just like random stuff written around. But consistency also can be great if you're lazy. That's how I take it. So most of my episodes are not edited. Advertising is Dead is never edited. Varun Dugi show is never edited. Most of it is pretty much straight up there, unless a guest changes something they say. And I just send my intro later on, so the IBM guys added there. But I've realized that the less chance I give for editing, the easier it is to put it out there. So Varun Dugi show actually initially started off with me just plugging in this mic into my phone, and just recording it using Anchor and putting it out there, till I eventually started doing it on a laptop and stuff like that. But I still do it one take. Do 5 takes if you need to. Just finish up in one flow, and just put it out there. So that's a good way to be consistent. Reduce the time it takes to make it beyond the recording. And you can just that's how I do 3 episodes a week. One Advertising is Dead and 2 Varun Dugi show, because all of them, like literally I spend 1 hour doing a month's worth of episodes for Varun Dugi show. And I do 1 hour a week, if at all, if I do for Advertising is Dead. So in essence, the time isn't that much. It's just that you should just be able to build your system that way.
No, definitely. That is so, I think that's such good advice, cutting down that amount of time. And that's what even we try to do while we are recording itself, because now we know where our strengths, our weaknesses are, how to direct the conversation. So the more you do, the less need there is for editing. And also, those segments, like how you like start and end the same way. So, listeners come back for particular segments. So we always have this rapid fire round. Then we have one question about book recommendations. So, no matter who the guest is, at least, everybody knows that you're going to get a certain format within which obviously, there's the freewheeling conversation, and then you go off what the guest answers and then respond with your next question. So it's never that we follow, this like very tight script where, question 5 has to come in question 5. You just see the energy and then you sort of like plug in your talking points which you already prepared.
Also, that can throw you off, right? If you do that, sometimes you can get thrown
Yeah.
off, because your guest actually feels like you're listening to them if you ask them a question basis what they've said, rather than something you prepared. So that's something which I always enjoyed to do. I've also been a yapper since I was a child, as you can make out. Is that finally everybody at home is like, he's got something to do, so he doesn't talk to us as often as he does. So they send me off into this room to record the podcast as often as they can.
That's hilarious. Because it's very interesting because see, ours is a 2-host podcast. So we also have, Michelle and I, we have our dynamic. In the intro, we talk to each other. And I wanted it to be like that because I also really like that rapport. And it's also like, because it's books, it's nice, the concept of book clubs, you read something together, you share that piece of art together. But I want to hear from both of you, what are the challenges of a one host podcast, and especially also, retaining, because all the podcasts, I've seen some of the episodes are 30 minutes, some are 1 hour. So, what are the challenges of retaining interest for yourself and for the listener and that amount of conversation? Maybe Savita, you'd want to answer that.
Yeah, I think we're just, so for me, I really go by what the guest is saying. Sometimes it depends. A guest tells me, I have only this time. But I try to still ask them what I wanted to get out of them because I have that topic in mind. But I've noticed that if it's an interview, people are likely to obviously listen longer, right? Versus a monologue when you're talking yourself, maybe. But while there may be metrics saying drop off point is 35 minutes or whatever, I think if the conversation's interesting, people will listen once they jump on. But if somebody's checking, okay, this conversation's 50 minutes, I don't have so much time to listen to it, maybe then it depends. So it really depends on what format. I've chosen to do both. So when I do 2 episodes per week. So when I do my own bite size, it's around 10 minutes. And when I do interview, I go with what they're saying. For example, I was talking to a book coach and she was breaking down every part of the book writing process. And that interview was about 50 minutes. And then I was talking to someone else where, the interview was just 25 minutes. And I felt like she had shared everything she had to share. And there wasn't any point in continuing to ask other questions. So I really go with the flow. I'm easy. I don't try to cut off an interview, especially if the conversation is interesting and I'm listening to the guest. And I try not to think so much. I think about, yes, what the audience should take away from this conversation, but sometimes it's because I treat it like a conversation between 2 people, which is it's conversation, not an interview, right? If I have to ask some questions and I have a lot of follow-up questions with what they are sharing because I'm genuinely interested in listening, I go ahead and I do that. So I'm not thinking about the time now, but again, like I said, I've just started out and this seems to be working. And maybe I learn more as I go when I have a second podcast like Varun, maybe.
No, I agree with you 100%. Duration is honestly shouldn't be a criteria. Depends on what you're talking. Like you had guests, like I've had a guest who I will not mention because the episode never went live. Really popular figure, record with him 20-minute episode, really bad. I cut it at 20 minutes because I finished the conversation. Obviously didn't seem like I would, but I was like, it just wasn't working. Like he was just generally not in the right space to be able to talk and never went out. But you will realize that some people give you a lot of information in 25 minutes and some people you just want to talk. If they have the time, you'll do an hour and a half, you'll do 2 hours. We'll all try to get to where Amit Verma gets. But yeah, I agree with 100%. The duration is honestly depending on the guest and what the format is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's interesting that you mentioned that because sometimes, that happens. The guests that sort of like give you what you want. And then obviously there are guests that don't do that. And then you cut, even we do the same thing. We cut the minutes of the episode. It'll maybe be a shorter episode. And sometimes, yeah, I mean, sometimes you do have to scrap the episode. But it's very interesting for us is that sometimes what has happened is that the episode has been recorded and we feel that it's happened 2 or 3 times and we feel it's not that great. Maybe, because of our questions, the way we wore, the energy that day. So what we have done is we actually sometimes do ask the guests to even re-record. And at that time, if you have a good rapport with them, we may get on a call with them beforehand, kind of like direct them as to like what we're going. And one of our best and most popular episodes with the most number of downloads, I won't say the name, that one was a re-record. So, that was quite an interesting experience for us. The podcasting community had a lot of questions, but I think that we did answer a couple of it. Do you guys, speaking of, before the recording, to try and build the rapport with the guests, do you do that, or do you just sort of like come onto the podcast and like start the conversation right away? How's it for you?
Okay, I'll go. So for me, it really depends. Some guests want to come straight to the interview. And some people are okay to chat. They'll ask you more questions and they'll be like, what do you want to talk about? So if we are narrowing down on a topic, if somebody has many areas to talk about, then we have an interaction and a chat and then we set up. Usually I have some kind of conversation happening either Instagram DMs or LinkedIn chats. That happens, or via mails. But some guests just come straight to the interview. But before I start the interview, we do chat, and I tell them who I am and what I do and all of that. So there is that conversation. And usually I find that once you've had that conversation, I think just one guest maybe left immediately, but usually during the conversation is when you build you figure out your energies and you see if you're a good fit, and you build a relationship literally in that 45 minutes or 30 minutes. And then once we finish the interview, we do have a chat, and then we see how we can collaborate. There's always some way to collaborate further. And I always ask them, what can I do for you in return, or how can I pay it forward? Sometimes they'll say we'll get in touch, or sometimes they'll say let's do this, and then I see how we can take that forward. Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. Pretty much similar point of view on that, actually. Actually, yeah, I literally have nothing to add. That is the very rare. I have nothing to add, because I think what Savita said is perfectly the way to do it.
Yeah.
It's one of those times I'm passing it back to you, and I'm going to let you add a little extra. So maybe
I agree. It's very interesting. I was on another podcast. So that podcaster, actually, we had like a half an hour, like even before, like couple of days before the interview, we had sort of like a half an hour, 40-minute conversation prior. So that's just the way that she did it. But what we do is that we also sort of like just like take 10 minutes before the episode. And then we're chatting on email and all of those things to just sort of build that rapport, and then it happens naturally in the episode, because we're just so happy and curious about the person that's coming. So
the only thing I'd add, actually, now that I think about it, is that you sometimes you end up having. I used to have a perennial problem to do pre-chats a lot. Every guest would have a pre-chat, and sometimes I would keep doing so. Okay, when we spoke earlier, this is something we mentioned. So I kept doing that a lot, and someone kind of DM'd me and said, you do that a lot. So why don't you just do that on the content? So I've actually reduced my pre-chats now. I only stick to a few people, and otherwise, I think that it's also fun to kind of go into a conversation like you would go into a conversation, right? Like you're going in. So I learned this while doing this. So I did this one. There was this podcast I started doing last year, which I did 8 episodes of, called Useless Information. I did 8 episodes of it. A lot of fun. Early pandemic, right? I didn't want to talk about work. So I literally DM'd people who I knew. So I DM'd. So Chinnappa used to work at MTV years ago. So I messaged him and said, will you please do this? Ask Gaurav Kapoor, ask Rohan Joshi, a bunch of others. I said, let's just put a mic on, 1 hour, half an hour, whatever. Let's talk about something which we want to talk about, which nobody ever asked us about. So Chinnappa spoke about diving for like half an hour. Rohan and I spoke about sci-fi, background music in movies and all that stuff. Saurabh spoke about his love for cricket, which he's a huge cricket fan. Like he'll know trivia and like data which you would never imagine. So we just did that, and so and that's where I so almost like improv conversation and improv podcasting rather. I think that actually taught me that sometimes if you just kind of go in slightly blind, even for the guests, and tell them, guys, at some point we'll just see how this flows. But if they actually ask you for a couple of points, if you want to set the mood in that sense, which I think is the most studio concept, right? You would always do that. Like in the studio, I remember when it was IBM, we would sit for 15 minutes before, have a chat, and then go in and record. Now you kind of set it in the first couple of minutes of the episode. I'm told that sometimes makes my episodes boring in the first 5 minutes, but I guess after that it warms up. But I found that to be easier. Is that kind of going in and just, in most cases, just freewheeling from the start, and just spend the first 3 minutes while you're just trying to check if the audio is fine. To just crack a couple of really bad dad jokes, and that generally does help, I've realized.
Yeah, definitely. And it also adds to that, surprise element, or like, like if you don't have those pre-chats. So definitely, that's interesting. Okay. I have one last question for you for both of you before we open it up to the audience. I want to know some of your biggest mistakes that you have made and what have you learned from them?
Okay. Oh, wow. I don't know where to start. I think I've made so many, right?
So many.
Sorry?
My pilot is my biggest mistake. It is the worst thing you will ever hear. We did a pilot at IBM and I had both Amit and Kavita from IBM on. I didn't contribute. I just asked questions and we listened to it and everybody was like, this is not how you normally sound. What happened when I record this pilot? And I was just sitting in there, and the Ronnie one I spoke about. So biggest mistakes.
I think I have so many, but I'll start with the tech one. I think sometimes I do these obvious things like, I continue speaking and then the mic is on mute, or the network. Oh my God, I have to change my network when I'm on Zoom sometimes because I have two different networks and one works better. I forget to do that. And then in the middle of the interview, after the guests just come on, I remember that I haven't changed. So that's one. I've gotten better. Having a post-it in front of me helps. Doing those checks before helps. But I've done some major bloopers. I think it's a blooper, but the guests didn't think that. One was with Nonita Kalra. I asked her, so what do you do, right? I mean, tell me about how do you relax, or tell me about the behind the scenes of your work. So she said, no, I'm really like focused on work, and I work out in the morning and then I do work most of the hours. I'm like, oh, from the outside, it looks like you have this glamorous, kind of thing. And then she immediately said, no, but we do a lot of glamorous stuff. We went for this show and and I was like, oh my God, was I trying to imply that, what she's saying is boring? And it looks like so I felt really like worked up about it. And so after the interview, I told her that, and she's like, no, but you didn't say anything wrong. It was fine. But I still feel like that was a big blooper. The second one was Anupama Chopra. Did my homework, but somehow didn't extend to doing the homework about her parents, right? So I asked her this very obvious question saying, did you always want to be in Bollywood? She's like, yeah, my mom wrote the scripts for Prem Rog and thing. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know that. And so, yeah, those were my obvious terrible ones. I still feel bad about it. I've gotten better. But yeah, I think
I've ghosted. I think my worst, but you know what? You actually never ghost a guest. I have by mistake forgotten a recording. I forgot to put my calendar and I have the guest messaging, we had a recording now, right? And I had a work call. So I couldn't even like get out of the work call. So I have like, thankfully it was another podcast host who was the guest, thankfully. And she understood. I was like, oh man, if like that had been any other guest. And since that day, I've been like this, like double checking the calendar because that's like the worst thing, right? Imagine a guest shows up at the link and the host is not there. So I was like, oh my God, yeah. That's the worst thing.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being so candid. Yeah. No, I think we've also like had bloopers, like, we like miss, like, because if you label something, it's always a sort of like kind of people don't like labels, right? So, we've said you're a romance writer, and then like people may not like those sort of things. So that's funny. And then, sometimes we like get disconnected because this Wi-Fi thing's always happening, and then we'll just like continue speaking and lose half the things. So the tech bloopers are a lot. I think I recorded an entire episode where there was like so much echo and reverberation that just couldn't go ahead. So the amount of re-recordings we've had is a lot, but it's totally worth it in the end. Okay, so we have 15 minutes left. So I'm gonna open it up to questions. If any of you guys listening in have questions, you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can also use the chat box.
Hi, I have a question. I'm very curious about the Zoom which you use for your interviews, because I use Zencaster, which gives me 2 tracks so I can edit both of them separately. How do you edit a Zoom? Because both the tracks are on one track, both the talk. So how do you edit it if something, if the interviewee is saying something and you have some disturbance on your side, you can't edit it out. So
you can do it in the settings. The settings now allows you to get 2 tracks now.
In Zoom, you can.
Yeah, you're just going to the audio settings. I forget where it lies, but there is a way for you to get that.
Oh, wonderful. So you can actually get 2 tracks which can edit separately.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Right. Super. Thanks.
Also,
and one more thing is, sorry, finish.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that there's also one thing which most of us switch on, which you should never switch on, is there's something called turn on original audio. Unless you're in a proper soundproofed room, never switch on turn on original audio on Zoom, because what that does is takes off all the noise suppression which it puts in. So while it might, taking it off might make your voice sound slightly better, it will catch everything out on the street everywhere around. So that setting, like I fiddled with it, it suddenly I had like one traffic sound from below coming into the podcast, and so that's one thing, never switch off on Zoom. Sorry, Savita, you were saying.
No, I was just saying the Zoom has this now better quality sound package, which I had to download recently, which helps suppress all of this sound. I think that's why you're saying don't turn on original sound. I also use Quadcast now. So
That's very nice.
Yeah, but Zoom is great. There's no, like, you can use it. I think anyone can start off with that, and then you can always look at improving sound if you want to.
Have you ever scrapped? I mean, Tara did say she scrapped a whole episode, but have you ever kept back a episode because the sound behind the interviewee has not been good and it's come and gone as you took the interview? Is that something which you decide to scrap? Because one of the things I've seen is I hear a podcast and the sound is not good. Within 5 minutes, I get put off as a listener. So being on the other side, have you done that ever? It's just scrapped an episode because it's not sounded right?
So I've stopped a couple of episodes like in the first 10-15 minutes when I saw it going really off, or I just make them switch off their camera on Zoom or try some of those things. That really helps. Like I've had to stop like an episode which we had to do twice because one of my guests had gone back to Meghalaya and he had really bad internet. So every time it rained, his net would go, right? So, and every time we recorded, it would rain. And so we did that, like the third try around is when we got it. So sometimes, I mean, it's better to stop it midway and say, this is the reason, than to turn around later and say, okay, I'm not taking it live, let's do it again. So that's, I mean, that's what I've kind of tried to do. But yeah, I have scrapped it if it's not legible enough. If it's got too many breaks in there, it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah, it's difficult because you can control your own audio, but you can't control the guest's audio. So
but actually, if I can do a local recording, right? Have them use Windows voice recorder, or if they're on a Mac, have them use the voice memo. Make them record that and email it back to you. Most guests these days, I've actually been asking them to do that. It's it's simple enough to explain to them, and that way you have a backup audio in case their audio goes off. So that's the one piece we've tried in the last 3 months, and that's really worked. In most guests do it. Some people don't because they're just like, okay, but I don't know where this is. But I'd say 90% of them can figure it out.
Yeah, so we use something called Dolby On. So you can also download that and have the guests just record their track on that. Yeah. Any other questions?
There's a question in the chat box where someone's asking about video and audio, right?
That's an interesting one. Do you notice any difference in engagement between audio and video?
No. Yeah.
No.
Okay. So I do both, but sometimes, if the network is bad or the guest doesn't want to, is not video ready, then we don't do video. Where I have the video, I may use it to promote and it may go on a YouTube channel and we may use some cuts to do like an IGTV. But I don't see any difference because they're both on two different mediums, right? So anyway, on the podcast platform, you just listen to the audio. But it does help to, maybe promote if you have a video. But there are a lot of people who are doing the video podcasts, and I think it works just as well. So that's my take on it.
It's a very different audiences, right? Like I remember when I started the Varun Duggi show, I put my first episode out because I just started my YouTube channel. I put it up there. And one of the first comments was, "Oh, you're really good for like your first ever podcast episode." And I'm like, "Okay, I do this other show. You can listen to that as well. It's only audio." So I did, because very different audience, and also makes it very SEO friendly. That's the only thing I've seen is that if you do the clips game where you break it up into shorter clips, do your YouTube tags right, then whenever someone's searching for something specific, your video might show up. So it makes you more discoverable. And that's the biggest problem that audio right now has, is just like searchability, how you get discovered. And I think YouTube actually is solving for that for many people. But yeah, I still love the audio first model. I think putting video on is just a great add-on to have.
Yeah, and some guests love it, right? Because they think better and they speak better and they they're far more articulate sometimes when they're not worrying about how they look on videos. So some people love to turn off their video and talk, and then you get the best conversations out of that. I like video as a coach for a different reason, because if I am constantly looking at the expressions, I'm reading their body language, I'm doing all of that, which I do in my actual profession. So I like to do videos so I know where they are at. And that helps me understand, while I don't have interviewing skills, I'm not free flowing like Varun. So it helps me understand how they're responding, what is a better question to ask, how I can tweak a question, or whether I should push on a certain point more, whether I need to go deeper, or, so that's what I use when it's video, and that's how it helps me.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, so this is a question that lots of people have. Monetization. So, how do you monetize a podcast? Like, does your podcast help you? Because both of you also have businesses. So, have you monetized your podcast in itself? Has it obviously helped you with your business? How is it for you guys?
So Varun Dugish was not monetized. Advertising is dead, yes, because you're part of a network. So IBM, that's so I have a deal with IBM where they have an entire ad sales team. So they bring in. So I've had like episode sponsor for like a few months. I've had like ads that come in between where I get revenue share on that. So that's like, so while I don't get into the schematics, most times what you'll end up doing is, okay, this is the integration when we're recording the ad, how do we do it and stuff like that. So that is monetized. It's good if you do a deal with the network that way. I know guys like Hubhopper are now kind of building out, they built out the whole marketplace, right? You can actually kind of go in and tap into that. The other way is I also find that the greatest to monetize indirectly. Like it obviously a lot of podcasts also kind of help you in everything else that you're doing in life. It gives you great like personal branding connections. So I've done like paid workshop pieces. And I now get random stuff to do on Instagram thanks to the podcast, and so on and so forth. So that stuff kind of adds in there. But monetization, honestly, I think it'll really scale up once the Spotify piece kind of comes into India, because they're adding programmatic, and they're going to let you monetize old episodes. So if you've done like 50 episodes, it's not just the 51st one you'll monetize. You can monetize every single episode you ever did. I think that's when it will really scale up for most people. Same way how YouTube has done, but it's still very early. Monetization is very early for podcasts. It's still very old school in terms of the model.
I can't answer that because it's not monetized at this time. But I've had a different one where people have reached out saying, hey, now that we've grown and we've been able to bring on some great guests, some people have reached out and said that, can you interview me and I'll pay to come on your show. Yeah. There is a model that exists. I know of some podcasters who are doing that. I haven't yet explored it at this time, but yeah, there are different ways I haven't monetized it this time.
Yeah, that's very popular as a model.
Okay.
And it becomes part of the package, but it's also a line, right? And that's what I remember this discussion I was having with someone who done it, and I was like, okay, at some point editorial needs to take precedence. You might want to get someone. It shouldn't be a substandard episode. If you can get a great guest and make money off it, nothing like it. Yeah. But the order of preference, I think, is that are they still going to be great content? Like I've had like a sponsor of the episode come in as a guest, but the person who came in was someone who was senior enough, did have enough insight, something like that seems fair. But we also had someone reach out, say, okay, I want to just come in for a guest, I'll pay X amount of money, nothing else. That just kind of feels, okay, will this person even be able to talk? So I did a pre-chat. I'm like, I want to understand. And I said, okay, no way this is going to be a good guest. So I said no. So I think that's the line. But it's a very popular model. I've realized that. Also, it's great PR, right? Podcasts today are like where people pick quotes from. So I guess that's one of the biggest models right now.
Okay, and nice to hear you chime in on that, because I don't know where I stand yet, and I'm not sure. I don't want to just get, yeah. So it's good. So you did a pre-check and you said no. That's interesting.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So just chat with them. Saying, as long as the guest is a good guest, like would you pick this person if they weren't paying you? And then you say, okay, I would still get them on, then it's just like a bonus. Right? That's how I looked at it. But also try to look at a larger deal. Like don't just pay for things. Are you sponsoring the show for a month? Are you sponsoring it for a quarter? Are you doing, let's say, X number of ad spots in between? Thankfully, I don't do a lot of these chats with IBM because they now entirely handle that part of it. But that's what I've learned is the best system, that you put like it can't just be that, because that just somehow, like, I know it feels a little when it's just that yeah, but once it's a broader deal and this is part of that and the person makes sense and you get to kind of say that, then it's fine, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like we get so many requests from people sending their books and all of those things, but there's only limited time and limited slots. So also you have to be okay with, saying no, picking and choosing, and sort of being unapologetic for your content and the kinds of guests you want on the show. Because oftentimes, also like it gets into this whole, like, you don't have to do anyone a favor or anything like that. You just have to look out for your editorial contents. I completely agree. Okay, maybe we have time for one last question from Rutu. Do you have any recommendations on hosting to get analytics? We use Anchor, but it isn't too detailed. Yeah.
I use Anchor as well for Varun Dugi show. IBM uses Adori. Generally, the analytics are getting better, but so if you're on Anchor, also try and get onto the Spotify dashboard. Spotify gives you separate data apart from the Anchor data. So I think it's called podcasters.spotify.com or spotify.podcasters.com. I don't remember which one it is. So you get a little bit more detail there. Savan has their own dashboard. So they all have dashboards. So what I end up doing is just keeping all the tabs open once a week or once every couple of weeks, going and checking the data across all, and some mixture of those kind of makes some sort of sense. But I also do know that Anchor is working very hard to add a lot more data in place. I've had some chats with them, just like because they do reach out to podcasters who use Anchor and just kind of get feedback and stuff. So I've had that chat with them, and I've seen some early versions of what they might be doing. Lot more data kind of coming on those dashboards. So they're actually doing a dipstick globally to figure out from creators what they actually want.
I use the Hubhopper dashboard, but I also frequently write into them asking them what's my drop-off rate, how long are people actually listening? Because at the end of the day, okay, you have that many listeners or downloads, but you really want to know if they listen to it, how many. I also I ask them to send me data on how many are coming back, what's the repeat on each episode. And I got somebody reached out to me from Podkite. Apparently they are a fully analytics, but it's a paid, like you have to pay for it. But they give you a lot of analytics. Apparently, I haven't tried it, but they did reach out and they sent me some stuff. So that's my take on analytics.
Yeah. Actually, the drop-off rate is a good point, and that's actually the most important metric, I feel like, because if the longer you retain someone, that's actually what, because podcasters always get put compared to YouTubers, and our numbers are never going to compare. So what we have is retention, like, and they can say, okay, they might hold your thing for a 10-minute video to X percentage, but I'm holding something for 1 hour and X percentage. And that's the only flip you can kind of do with brands and advertisers. So helps me because I'm on the other side as well to the
that retention rate, and actually like being in someone's ear for an hour is something very rare today. Yeah. So okay, so we're out of time, but I really like this question. So if you guys could just quickly answer, who are your interview gurus?
Mine is, I'll share mine. The guy who hosts the podcast, How I Built This.
Kairaz, amazing. He's so good.
Yeah.
You should read his book. His book's fabulous.
I've got it, but I want to get to it. I'm like the book collector who has many things there, but not yet.
Same thing. Yeah. All the half of these, like a lot of these are like quarter read, half read, all that stuff. Like back, it's literally that.
Listen to my podcast to get inspired to read.
I try my best. I don't have who do I listen to who I like the conversations. I actually pick up a lot from a lot of people. So Kairaz is one of like personal favorites. I look at also like method, right? I love Scott Galloway and Kara Swisher on Pivot, and just that interplay in terms of how they talk. One of the guys I go to a lot, although he's not as popular across, is a guy called Rich Roll. So Rich Roll does this podcast called the Rich Roll Podcast. He's he's an ultra marathon runner, amazing story, and he does like a lot of fitness, health, that side. But he goes really deep into those pieces. So I really love the way he does it. It's very slow. It's very like you can go to sleep listening to it and still it will go into your head. I love some of those which are so like, it's like the easiest pace possible. So I love his method.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many out there. So I follow this podcast called Reading Women, which is also a co-hosted podcast, and it's a book podcast. And then I really like the HBR IdeaCast podcast, and it's not about the host as much, but I really like that 20-minute format where really the content is the key. So like all the questions are catered towards the guests and the different hosts every time. Yes, I think we are out of
See,
time.
if you want a podcast which is only with podcasters, it's a podcast called Inside Voices, where
Okay.
he only has conversations with podcast hosts. And so you actually discover many people through that. I love that because literally the only people in that are podcasters. So it's
Right.
so, and he asks even, what do you think your voice sounds like? Is
Yeah,
how it
I
starts
often
out.
discover podcasts just by listening to podcasts, because in a podcast they're always referencing other podcasts,
Yeah.
and then you just like go down that rabbit hole. But thank you so much, Varun and Savita, for giving your time to this panel. It was really, really interesting. I think we all learned a lot. So thank you so much. And we'll be putting this up, so I will share the link with you when it is out. And
Yeah.
best of luck for both your podcasts. I hope you get millions of listeners.
Thank you for having me on this podcast and for the opportunity to share whatever little bit that I know. I'm still a beginner in this, and for the opportunity, of course, to hear from both of you who have been doing this for a while. And yeah, I've enjoyed being here. And thank you, Arun. I took away so many things as well from everything that you both of you shared. And for all the listeners, all those watching this, all those who are going to be watching this later, I wish you all the very best with your podcast journey. It's a wonderful place to be. Do it for the love of podcasting by itself. Create great content, and the audience will come.
Definitely.
It's been a lot of fun. I always love to talk about podcasting. So it's like the best thing. You can get a podcast and ask him to talk about podcasting. I think we'll talk about it for hours.